Excuse me. Welcome to the 6 p.m. Soul Center Recovery Dharma and online on Zoom. It's fantastic to see everybody here, both in the room and on the screen. Um, you know, it's I've struggled sticking to the topic on these four elements. I always start thinking about something else. And but something that's still related, because I was thinking, what are all different things that I'd consider constituent parts of things? And there's, air, earth, fire, water. Um, and then there's, the mind. But I also thought of light. Um, I thought of light and those four um those four elements. And what I thought of is how the power of light can change those elements to different things. So we have water. If water gets below 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it freezes and it's a solid. Water is remarkable because water, H2O, is less dense as ice than it is as water. And if that weren't the case, then it would sink and our oceans would freeze over time. But because it rises, life can persist. And it's one of the few, if not the only, compound that does that. And of course, we get water from 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius, we'll just say. It's a liquid. And if you add more light, if you add more energy, the water itself changes its very nature and becomes a liquid. If you increase the energy even more, it becomes a gas. Boils up and becomes steam, and the steam stays in the air. And it'll do that without boiling too. We have water droplets in the air around us right now. That's why we have humidity. If you superheat a substance even more, it becomes a thing called plasma. And the difference between plasma and gas is that plasma is so superheated that the electrons and the protons float free, are the nucleus of the atom and the electrons of the atom float freely from each other. So you'll see a lot of hydrogen and helium in the sun. And all those nuclei are separated from their electrons. And because all those electrons are flying around freely, it becomes conductive to electricity. That means that it transports energy even better than it had before amongst itself because all those electrons are floating free. So it becomes like a superheated gas that's also a metal and gives us light, send a mere, 93 million miles away or something. It gives us light, that state of matter. So light definitely has an impact on the four elements. What really brought me to this was the season. I love Christmas, and I celebrate it culturally and not religiously. But I just love Christmas. Um, love the songs, love the lights, love the celebrations. And I get an even richer holiday season because my wife is very pagan. And so we celebrate solstice every year as well as Christmas. In fact, solstice is our biggest holiday. And so it brings me to mind of that celebration of the light finally increasing, the days finally getting longer, and the amount of light we're getting increasing as the sun goes from that lowest point in the sky and goes higher and higher as we receive more light and things become brighter. that rebirth, and lights play on that. So I went into the Buddhist ideas, and I'll be honest, I did a web search and I go Buddhism light, and then read a ton of stuff, and then finally, I hit among a million things. I really had to pick and choose. What stood out to me was the idea of luminous mind. So I read about that, and the more I read about it, the more perplexed I became, and the more curious I became. Um, so not every school of Buddhism treats luminous mind the same. Uh, a lot of Mahayana Buddhist and Tibetan Buddhist say the mind in its original state is luminous. The mind in its original state is Buddha. And a lot of Hinayana schools say, no, the mind in its original state is filled with defilements. And the real wonderful thing is it doesn't matter because the practices are the same and still lead to the same conclusion. So we're almost arguing over semantics. Well, we're not arguing right now, but the difference is semantical more. One wonderful metaphor that was given was, imagine you were born in a place where the sky is always cloudy. There's always just a sheet of clouds over the sky. And a lot of people say, well, all the light comes to us from the clouds. All the light comes to us from the clouds. But some other people go, no, there's something fantastic beyond the clouds, and that's where all the light's coming from. And imagine one day all the clouds dispersed just for a little while. There might have been a few left in there, and you could see blue and you could see the sun. Imagine how powerful that would be. So, in many schools of Buddhism, the defilements we have, which we take the Eightfold Path to free ourselves from suffering and illusion, those clouds are like an illusion that block out our natural state, which is called luminous mind, also oftentimes referred to as bodhisattva. Um, so in our practice, we clear those clouds up so we can be more in touch with that state. And that state may not necessarily be nirvana or awakening itself, but it leads to that state of awakening and nirvana. So I loved that one too. Another metaphor that I read on this was, imagine someone told you to go into a room and you could see yourself. You've never seen yourself reflected before. You want to see yourself reflected. You go in this room and there's this big giant mirror, but you can't see it because there's no light in the room. So you sit there and you sit there, and someone finally turns on the light. And after your eyes adjust, you can look across and just see your reflection, your magnificent reflection of the magnificent you. Again, Buddhist practice, the Eightfold Path, and all the practices we have in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha help that light to come on so we can see the reflection and we can see the reality of what we really are. It's like a candle in a room. The candle illuminates everything around it. And the candle, in its act of illuminating everything around it, illuminates itself. This brings us to the metaphor of pointing at the moon. I've done this with dogs. I'll point at something, and the dog will stare at my finger and not stare what I'm pointing at. All the Dharma and all the practice we have is something that's pointing at something. And if we're caught in our ego and if we're caught in our defilements, we get stuck looking at the finger and not looking at what the finger is pointing to. It's like all these things are a map, but they're not the actual place. The difference is like reading a journal, a travel journal, or looking at a map of Africa and actually being in Africa. It's a humongous difference. Um, when I became more involved in Buddhism, I suddenly realized that Buddhism is not something that can be understood in words. So we have lots of people pointing and giving suggestions, but it is something that is experienced. And it's experienced through that luminous mind. So, whatever our practice is, whether it be chants or following our breath, listening to koans, reading suttas, going to Mass, whether our practice be a practice of compassion or a mixture of all these things, they are all vehicles to take us there, but they themselves are not the place. So I just want to spend a few minutes meditating, and I want to do Om Mani Padme Hum, um, just to remind us of that lotus that draws all the water and all the mud and takes all the light and takes the air and builds a fire in itself to become this magnificent flower. It itself not only embodies enlightenment, but embodies how these things interact to help us achieve enlightenment by being a role model in itself. It takes all these things and builds from that. You can follow along when you're comfortable or just listen. I'll just do this for a few minutes. It'll be followed by a few minutes of silence. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Take a few moments to enjoy the silence. Okay. May we be happy and peaceful. May we be happy and peaceful. May we be healthy and strong. May we be safe and protected. May we live with ease. Namaste.